Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Project Management Career Panel. This is our first of this series. I'm your president for USNA GWC, Luis Martinez, class of 01. Given the poll we ran earlier this fall, where we asked y'all, what were your biggest concerns in transitioning? One of the ones that led that is learning what industry to transition to and what career fields to transition to. So in this series of webinars that we're hosting here is to address that, to give you the tools and experience to say, okay, this is what our grads are doing right now. That sounds interesting. That sounds like something that I'd like to do. And tonight we're going to look at project management, which is a big one. I myself am a certified PMP. The two gentlemen we have on tonight, Sean Papso, class of 2008, member of the board, and Josh Atkinson, class of 2005. Both project managers themselves. Josh is our guest for tonight. He's has extensive experience in project management. He is in business development for PM Pro Learn. He does a lot of assistance for veterans transitioning. He's a published author on several websites. We're very, very fortunate to have him today. But for tonight, I'd really just love for you to get in there, get involved, ask questions. If you, we'll have a couple of polls going to see where you stand, if you're active duty, if you've transitioned. And we'd just like to see how we can best serve you. But with the two gents that we have tonight leading this, you're in great hands. So with that, I'll phase back and I'll pass it over to Sean. So Sean.
Perfect. So let me see, Josh, are you able to pull the slides up real fast?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. I'm sorry, we're a bit of a learning curve here on this webinar jam platform that Luis loves. All right, perfect. We can start right on, we can start right here on the title slide. So I'm Sean Papso. I'm a member of the board, class of 2008. I'm currently the Vice President of Business Development and Capture at Invictus International Consulting. So we're a full spectrum cyber firm based in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. I am a PMP certified professional, or project management professional rather, veteran of the Navy, P3 pilot. With me tonight, Mr. Atkinson. Josh, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
All right. As I introduced, my name is Josh Atkinson, 05 grad. I was a Harrier pilot in the Marine Corps, then got into ground logistics, deployed with SOCOM as well, kind of a little bit of everything. It's a jack of all trades, master of many. Got my PMP on active duty, saw a lot of the application in it. Got active duty in 16. Got into heavy rigging, construction, project management, nuclear power maintenance, combined cycle power generation work. And then PM Pro Learn with a fellow Marine that I hired when I was active to teach me PMP, really focusing on helping active duty get certified in project management. At the same time, transition to become a consultant to WBB. I do life cycle sustainment, change management, logistics, acquisition work for DC area and around. So privileged to be here. I do like to write. I love to help people. So I've dropped some links to articles that I've written in the chat. The Pro community page is there as a resource if you're looking for stuff in project management. One is also a Beyond the Uniform webinar that I did as well, kind of on how I failed on active duty, right? Got non-selected to 04. Served with Luis. Everyone that I worked with disagreed with me not getting selected, but got my GTFO letter. I'm active duty and as a reservist. And just the journey of frustration that caused and what I learned from it and how to help other people. So I am not your traditional active duty. Of course, neither is Sean. Both share in the Silver Bullet Club, I guess, from the military. But
Absolutely.
Learned a lot in the process and excited to be here tonight. Just kind of talk through really the foundation on what is project management, what are the different types of project management, why should you care? All right, I guess from a active duty veteran perspective, what's the value of certifications? And then, hey, what are the additional resources we're here? And going to close it out with a Q&A session at the end of put against the wall, right? I'm definitely a see if it sticks kind of a guy. I find collaboration works best when everyone has a voice. So there is no dumb question except the question you don't ask. And I'm not going to assume to know what's in your head, but I'm going to try to get there as close as possible. So Jim Davin, nice Pro Learn alumni. Awesome.
Awesome. So just to kind of add on to that. So kind of the impetus for this session, if you will. And like Josh said, we've definitely had an interesting career. I like to tell people, I think I tripped my first eight years through Washington, D.C., trying to figure out what to do after I got off active duty. One of the things that someone always told you, or at least told me when I was on my way out, is, hey, as a junior officer, go out and tell somebody you want to be a project program manager and ask them what they got. So like literally go up to somebody and be like, hey, I want to be a program manager. What do you got? And then they'll just look at you cross-eyed because you have no idea what you're talking about. But hey, that sounded like a great idea. So what we wanted to go over tonight, if you guys are kind of in that same boat that we are, or maybe you're out and you're already a PM or you're looking to become a PM, is it worth it? Is it worth getting a PMP? What does it mean to be a project program manager? And then going from there. So yeah, Josh, back over to you. Just want to throw that anecdote in there.
No, it's a great point. And one thing I'll tell you is that doctrine is defined differently when you're civilian. You get to make up terms all you want. So there are those companies that adhere to the PMBOK and the Project Management Institute standard. And there are those who just call it whatever they want to call it. And the only way you find out who's a liar is by talking to somebody on the inside. So we'll go into tactical networking later on how to find your way into a company and figure out who's full of shit or not, I guess. Sorry to be blunt on that one, but we'll keep going. All right. So those of you that have been down the PMP journey, this may be redundant. We'll try to go fast and furious through there. Raise your hand and stop if I'm covering something that you don't understand. But what is a project, right? And this is why I think veterans are great project managers. A project is a temporary endeavor that creates a unique service or result, right? Everything military focused is mission oriented. We say project management is mission accomplishment, right? So if it creates a unique output, it's a project. Not the same as operational work, right? If you're doing the same thing every single day and having Groundhog Day every day of your life, you're not a project manager. Okay, ongoing, repetitive, fairly simple. Okay, what is project management? Essentially applying the tools that you have in order to accomplish the mission. There's a 5-cycle process going through the PMP: initiating, planning, executing, monitor, control, and closing, or I say IP equals MC squared, right? But phases of a project. Now, anyone that deals with government contracting or program management or DAU is very familiar with these 5 phases. How you do the work inside of these phases depends on your understanding of the doctrine of the PMBOK and how your company chooses to do the work, right? But anyway, go down to exactly what these mean later. That's not the purpose of tonight, but if you want to go down the PMP road, I'd love to help you out. Right. Successful project delivers in scope, on time, within budget, and meets the needs of the business, right? It's fairly simple in concept. However, when you're dealing with customers who have no idea what they want, or you're dealing with civilian constraints like the public in a nuclear power world, sometimes it's very hard to get something done on time because people want to stop you. So team roles. What's a project manager? Who is a project manager? It's the person assigned to get the job done, right? Pretty simple. What do? The good ones or the bad ones? Good ones lead, right? Provide clear vision, direction for project success. Okay. Competency, technical project management, leadership, and business understanding. Okay, on the military side of the house, this is the CO, ideally, or the 3. Okay, someone that comes in and it's like, look, this is where we need to go. This is my vision. Here's how we're going to get there. And you empower your team to run. Which also goes into Agile down a little bit farther on why Agile is so great. Okay. The talent triangle on the right, PMP going into next year, the test is actually focusing a lot on those 3 areas: technical, leadership, and strategic business. They're integrating Agile into that from an understanding of leadership and strategic business. The technical side of project management is still found in the PMBOK 6th edition right now. Is what is the doctrine for predictive project management? Okay, project lifecycle. This is where the guys on this call right now can help iterate this further, but predictive projects, when you think of what is predictive, it is dependency driven, A to B to C to D, right? Think of deployment planning, pre-deployment planning, then you embark, you go over there, you do your mission, you come home. Everything flows. The second type of project lifecycle is called adaptive, right? Or agile. Everyone screws up what they think agile means, right? And Sean will probably tell you the same thing. Agile is a lot. Agile is what everyone hopes to be. It's the key buzzword right now in industry. Oh, we're agile. That just means you can flex and change really, really fast. Well, you can do that with known processes and structure, or you can wing it and just empower your people to figure it out really, really well and say, good job. So two big things, though, if you want to simplify these two, predictive means I know what I want. Agile means I have no idea what I want, right? It's probably very extreme, but when you're dealing with projects that are going to handle rapid change, that are being developed in stride, then Agile works great. If you know what you want, you have defined goals and parameters like building a house. Predictive is great because the processes are interwoven and dependent on one another. Agile is not only IT, and I'll get to that later. It was created in the IT world, which I'll let Scott dovetail on this, or Sean dovetail on this in a minute. But Agile has expanded to so much more, which is why the PMI is integrating this. They call it hybrid Agile in a lot of cases, because there are elements of projects that are going to use all the different tools. And again, these are just different tools to use based on the problem trying to be solved. So Sean's background in IT project management is probably a lot more akin to Agile. So I was going to let you kind of jump in on what is your take on Agile?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, thank you for the handoff there. So when you think of the word Agile, like Josh said, you're thinking of rapid adaptability to change. Really what it was developed as, if you're familiar with the software development lifecycle, where you look at Agile project management, it's the idea that you create small kind of rapid iterations on a single project. So if you think about like a software development lifecycle and you're developing an application, you roll out different versions. Think about like iOS, right? You can roll out, if you have an Apple iPhone, you just got iOS 14, but it's got bugs in it. So now you got iOS 14.1, you'll get 14.2, et cetera, et cetera. That's the idea of what they call kind of a software release cycle. And how do you do that? A lot of these folks will practice what they call these agile development methodologies. So the idea is that you go through what they call a sprint. So it's a defined period of time. Think it really shouldn't be this long. Some are like 4 days, some are like a week. Some, if you're in the federal government, they might take 6 weeks to do a sprint, which really isn't agile at all. But what we do in the agile sense is you fail fast and you fail often. That way you're not spending a year rolling out a product, or for this instance in the project lifecycle, you do a project for an entire year, you roll it out and something's wrong with it and you got to wait another year till it comes out. The idea is through user acceptance testing, through what you're doing with your projects, through rapid engagement with stakeholders, the idea that you're constantly developing and churning and fixing and iterating on it. This is where the government likes to go. They think they're getting a better bang for their buck. A lot of commercial companies think the same way. They're getting better bang for their buck. Now, the shortfall is, and I can speak to the federal government side, people like to put the word agile on basically what they already do and think that it's agile. So if you look at the top there, kind of that waterfall design, that predictive project lifecycle, if you're the federal government and you slap the word agile on there and you basically connect an arrow from maintenance to requirements, they call that agile. It's not. So that's kind of where you start to see the word agile kind of get abused. And everyone's agile, like we're all agile all the time, but really in reality, you're kind of doing a predictive life cycle and you're just kind of going back to the beginning, and maybe your release cycle isn't, a year long, maybe it's 2 months, but it's not really truly agile. The idea of agility is that you're constantly churning and testing and rolling things out. And when, as a project manager, you're in different phases of the life cycle the whole way through, and you're managing that. And the idea is that collaboration becomes better use of budget, better use of resources. So hopefully that's what you're going for, Josh. And I didn't go astray.
That was great. I'm working on my ACP currently. I went through some training. I've been writing a bunch of articles on debunking the myths of Agile, right? It's misused, it's misunderstood, but people don't want to say they're not Agile, so they say they're Agile. But a couple of the links on there. One is planning not required. People think if I can do Agile, I can just wing it. The reality is to do Agile right, planning nonstop. And it's great, which is slide down the roads and you get into the application to military, but Agile is small unit leadership at its finest, right? Like if you think of a squad leader in the Marine Corps, platoon commander, maybe, on ship, like a section lead, it's like you're always planning and updating. That's the Navo would probably be the closest Agile guy on a ship, right? Like, hey, we went on course, a storm hit. Are we still on track or not? No, we're always refining the plan because we're taking in all of the various inputs that are causing us to change or possibly veer off course and making sure we're back and correcting continuously to get to our goal. And I'm going to give out different taskings to every one of my project teams in order to make sure that they understand what work needs to be done. I use a process called Kanban, which is a Lean Six Sigma structure, and the work of backlog, which is all the things that need to get done. And you prioritize the backlog based on the changing project needs on a daily basis. And you have what's called in work and then completed, which then goes into a quality review on the definition of done, which means what defines that task being finished. So again, there's a lot of leadership principles that fall into Agile, and there's a ton of application for the active component. And it really stems around a culture. You can be doing Agile, and this is where Sean can attest this on bad corporate culture, but if you don't have a community that embraces continuous feedback and allows people at the lowest level to speak up, you cannot be Agile, because your best intel collector is the guy closest to the fight. If he doesn't have a voice, you cannot handle and adapt to rapid change. You're not going to get the user and the customer telling you the bugs in their software and how to fix it because you're too high. So for corporations at the I have 100,000 employees level say that they're doing Agile, I'd wonder how they're doing that and where in the project are they doing it. Now, Agile fits in that planning not required one. I think there's great application of Agile in the design phase. There's a great application of Agile in the scope definition phase of a project until you figure out what you really want to do. And you can jump into predictive. They're totally woven in and out throughout each other. Which again, not to deep dive on what is Agile, but you're going to hear it, especially if you're going to the civilian world. Oh, we're Agile, or I want Agile methodology. That means a lot. There are about 9 to 10 different ways of doing Agile, from Lean to Kanban to Scrum to XP to feature development delivery and DSDM, and all these ways that people say they want to do it. Scaled Agile. They all mean different things, and there's different ways to do it, but the goal is to rapidly create value for your customer organization and embrace change. A lot of company cultures don't match the ability to do it well. So keep that in mind. All right. So here's a little question for you. I guess a little question and answer time. If you want to take everybody off mute, you can go ahead and do it. Or everyone can just chime in on the chat. We get some engagement on, is this a project, right? Because a lot of our folks are active duty. I figured this might apply.
Oh, this feels like I'm back in PMP school.
All right. Fine. Call it a Com2X or an FTX, right? Okay. Is this a project? I don't know where the most recent chat comes in. All right. Crickets. Everyone go get in there.
Let's make sure the chat's working here. There we go.
Yes, all right, Rich. Rich, at the point, I'd give you a beer if we were together, but it doesn't work. Where'd my mouse go? Oh, this one. All right, Albert, which one are you answering for there? All right.
Oh, look at Rick pulling out the advanced.
Yep. Planning for a maintenance inspection is a project. All right. First one is a project too. Planning for conducting a deployment. Yes. All right, cool.
There we go. Ah, there we go.
Every one of those is a project with the exception of maintenance, right? Doing maintenance is operations. All the rest have a beginning and end are considered projects. So again, I throw these examples up, especially for my active duty folks, is like, look, this is everything you guys probably do on a daily basis, right? So in your civilian life, and this is where personally I think PMP has value, even if you don't want to become a project manager. Knowing how to do work that is still project-based gives you a framework in order to handle how to do that work, whether you're in business operations, an entrepreneur, a project manager, or a training manager, and anything else. There are skill sets that apply. All right. All right. These are more focused for our active duty folks. Using terms if you don't have a PMP, just to help you frame it, since you guys are all military, right? Just a way to look at it differently. All right, so I'm just gonna leave it up here. I'm not gonna read through all of them and insult your intelligence and ability to read.
Yeah.
The piece I'll mention that I learned after getting my PMP was that it's a new language. It's not a new skill for veterans or active duty. It's a new language and a new way to look at it. But the skill set is there. It's inherent in everything we did every single day, which is also why I love the field. Okay, I love the field of project management, but I also tell you corporate culture and type of work depends. Sean, I'll tell you, IT software project management does not feel like military for the most part. Construction felt exactly like military, where I had a superintendent, i.e. my staff NCO. I had a foreman, right? Platoon sergeant, and I had a bunch of journeymen on my projects from the union. It was almost identical to being a platoon leader. It was great. So it depends.
Mm-hmm.
More words to use here. And just to help frame discussion to hopefully pique your interest on, hey, what do I want to learn about project management and why? The gaps for active duty fall under two key areas: stakeholder management and change, right? To most of us coming from the Naval Academy, your stakeholder was anyone that could screw you over, right? Sorry, I'm using that very loosely, but senior ranking officials and senior ranking officers who caused you pain was where I viewed stakeholders, right? Key leaders that need to know what I'm doing and are looking over my shoulder. When you go down into the root, though, of stakeholder management, it's anyone who can be influenced by, is perceived to be influenced by, or might be influenced by my project. Apply it to Leadership 101. Everyone in and around my sphere on a project is someone I need to pay attention to and care about and integrate into my communication plan. Communication plan is not Annex K. It is not the frequency I talk on. It is the message and medium and frequency at which I send that message in order to make sure that everyone understands what is going on in my project, right? Those elements are not what's taught in military planning, right? Your comm plan is what chat channel to use. Stakeholder management is keep everybody off your back, right? It isn't about leadership, right? But project management and right is leadership. I guess the last piece I didn't hit on is profit and loss. Contract risk and contract negotiation are things that are not taught in the military side. If anything, you're taught to stay away from money as much as possible to get you fired. Right? So learning about contract risk was huge for me. One, as an S4 officer. I was a core, I was a FU, and then getting into project management and construction, you live and breathe profit and loss in the civilian world. So that was a great education for me before I became a civilian. So value of PMP to active duty, we've kind of been hitting on this. Again, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and read every single one, but he is kind of the bottom. It teaches the industry standard terminology so active duty personnel can interact with civilians, right? It bridges the gap. It's great training. It teaches you a skill set that applies to every industry in the world. And it lets you have marketability and understanding of civilian terminology that is not otherwise taught on active duty.
And Josh, just to interrupt, just because it seems like the right time to ask that, but Albert just asked, is it best to get the PMP certification while on active duty?
Selfishly, I'd say yes. And there's a couple reasons why. One, there are resources and funding available while you're active duty that once you get out, you don't have access to anymore, right? Second piece is it helps you while you're in to learn the skill set. So when you get out, and I've been asked this question, how long ago did you get certified? it's almost like your credibility as a project manager is not just with having the certification, but how much have you done with it since you achieved it, right? The company I worked for in DC had an open position for a PMP certified project manager that needed 3 years post-cert experience. Okay, so if you're only getting it in transition or only getting it afterwards, sometimes it's hard to justify that you understand it. Now, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder, right? To go back to that phrase. The value that PMP is going to have for each person and the company that's hiring you is dependent on how they choose to view that certification, right? My first job, I was a project manager in construction. They did not care that I was certified. They cared that I was a veteran because they used a headhunter to hire me. I had 11 years of experience as a logistics officer at the division level. And they also hired another guy who was a 5-year Army low-altitude defense officer, and we got paid the same amount doing the same job. I was certified and he wasn't. Okay? They did not care that I was certified. I quickly learned that all of my customers really cared that I was certified. And they would skip over the senior project manager who was not PMP, but had 20 years of experience and come talk to me because we shared a brotherhood of being certified and we spoke the same language. Okay? So the value is twofold. It teaches you an education and it gives you credibility. The education applies to everywhere. The credibility depends on who's looking at you, right? And the guys on the call, Sean especially, you can probably attest to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So great question. I appreciate it, Albert. And I'll just do a caveat on certs too, which I'll get to later. Pursue education because it aligns with your own goals or where you want to get. There is no magic button in civilian credibility, okay? I've talked to one guy in Florida who had some other training company saying, you need to get your PMP and make 6 figures. And I said, what do you want to do in life? He's like, I want to be a maintenance technician. I was like, then why are you pursuing your PMP? Because someone told me I needed it to make 6 figures. I was like, you're wasting your time and money, right? Pursue the things that align with your goals. If the jobs you're looking at say you should have PMP, you probably want to think about it. If nothing you're looking at in any future desire of transition and go down the requirements process transition later, but if it doesn't align with anything you want, you're wasting your time and effort. Now, the value of getting out on active duty, to go back to Albert's question, is that units can pay for it. Unit training funds can pay for it because it aligns with military planning and leadership. And then you can kind of take it for a test run, right? You can get it, you can use it, you can apply it, and then realize as a civilian, like, I have no desire whatsoever to do project management. But it can help you while you're in. It can increase promotability while you're in, and then you can realize I don't ever want to do it again, right? So the other reason I think getting certs on active duty is valuable because it gives you a taste before you go, move my family over here to become a PM and not hate it, right? So, all right. That link goes to the Program Management Improvement Accountability Act. Obama signed Act 16, hoping to help government world integrate best practices of project management. It has not had the effect that I think the intent was meant to be for OMB, but they are trying to create a standardized project management career path, I think, within the GS world. It doesn't exist yet. The best is program manager, which is a DWIA certification. However, DWIA does not teach project management. They teach programmatics and program management. Of course, a lot of folks I've talked to say they're the exact same thing. And I said, you have no idea what you're talking about, but that's not worth the fight when they want to put their foot down. So just my plug for the active duty, PMP training is more affordable than most week-long resident schools that are free. So our company comes to you and it's cheaper to get. Here's an eye chart. All right, take a breath, take a minute to absorb it. I'm going to frame this for you. All right, we talked about predictive and adaptive in the application to military. All right, on the left-hand side, you're looking at the highest level of leadership within the military. Right, this was built for Special Forces unit, so that's why it says Corps, Brigade, MEF, Division, Regiment, Battalion, Staff. Like on the left-hand side, down to your fire team on the right-hand side. Okay, color coding. Predictive is more in the yellow. The green is adaptive. All right. There are elements of a lot of different methodologies. Lean Six Sigma is on there. Theory of constraints, Kaizen, Kanban, Scrum Master, ACP or Agile Certified Practitioner, and PMP. Right. There's a lot of application across the spectrum of various types of things. The bars on the upper left about the planning processes are meant to stop where they stop. Right. Those are not lists. But the planning process stops at orders development, right? You then issue the order and it's done, right? Then you go into just good small unit leadership after that. I think this is a bridge, right? Like certification, PMP, and Agile help provide a bridge that follows on from orders development through integration of change. The change management process in PMP goes, hey, we assess the change, we identify if it's within the scope. Does this change fit within the boundaries of the mission that we're supposed to accomplish? If it doesn't, did I put in a boundary change request in order to allow me the latitude to expand my scope? Or did I identify the additional critical resources in order to be able to accomplish the mission? Okay, so before you hit I accept that request, it needs to be evaluated. Once you accept that request, you have to go back into the planning process and figure out what changed. What impact to scope, cost, and schedule did I just acquire by accepting that change, right? Think Intel updated the battle space, right? Intel just brought in high-risk threat over to our flank. We probably need to shift fires over there. Do I have the fires? Do I have the resources? Who's over there? I mean, that's the change management process. Now, we do it on the watch floor quite rapidly. However, we never usually go back into the original op board, right? And you can allow yourself to get derailed down an Intel rabbit chase that may or may not be in line with your overall scope. So the other reason on this chart why you see agility stop kind of at that orders development part, there's some way to do agility in the planning piece of it. But if the general is constantly embracing change and whipping back and forth all the time, or the admiral, the people on the lowest end are getting jerked around so much, they're going to sit down and be like, when you pull your head out your ass, I'll finally listen to you. Right? And I'm being frank on that because I've experienced it. But agility is great. It goes to culture, but there are certain elements that don't apply and it doesn't fit. All right. So this is here as a resource. I can send it to you. I've written an article on how this applies and where it fits in. Change management on the bottom. I'm a certified change manager too. It is great. It's about making sure the message and communication occurs so that everyone's informed of what change is coming and how it applies to them. Again, I'll geek out on all these topics. If you want to have another discussion, I sent my email address in the chat. Reach out to me. It's on the last of the slide deck. Your team has this up there as well. So any feedback on your end, Sean, just kind of pitch it over to you guys on your understanding or your thoughts on the slide, because I know you haven't seen this until right now. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. The biggest takeaway that I would take from this is, while there are some differences, and a lot of it's going to be in the vernacular and vocabulary, you'll never use the word scope more than you will when you're doing project management. In fact, you probably haven't even used it a fraction as much as when you start doing the PMP and actually do project management. But the biggest thing here is if you approach it, and Rick just said this earlier, a project has a defined beginning and an end. If it's got a defined beginning and an end, you can apply a project management process to it. And just taking kind of the practical knowledge that you've gotten off of active duty, you're going to get yourself 75% of the way there. Now, where I've seen a lot of project managers kind of fall short, especially if you're studying for the PMP or you're studying for one of these certs, for instance. In my experience, people have told me, if you're a program manager already and you don't have your PMP and you're going to get your PMP, it's actually more difficult than it is to look in from the outside. Sometimes, especially for the PMP exam, there are processes, and without going way into it, the way the PMBOK really set up is there are processes. They're based across different areas. Each of them has inputs, outputs, and in the middle, there are tools, techniques, and different things that you use for that specific thing. And it's this giant charts. It used to be 56 areas. I'm sure it's way more than that now, but that's kind of the framework of the PMP. And now an actual program manager will tell you in reality, while it looks great on paper, some of the things that you actually do in reality, you got to adapt and overcome. And that's where your active duty experience is quintessential, right? Your ability to adapt to kind of the hand that you're being dealt at the time, still use that framework, but be able to tailor it to meet the mission needs at hand. It's invaluable. And it's why a lot of active duty types, especially junior, senior officers, have a much easier time in that management type of role when it comes to getting the deliverables out, meeting the schedule, meeting what your requirements are, than someone who may have just, studied and taken the exam and they're trying to do a textbook. So that's my 2 cents. Luis, do you want to add anything else in there?
Yeah, I'll jump in there, but I'll let Josh first answer Norris's question, and then I'll kind of give my 2 cents after that. So,
okay. And Norris, great question on budget and fiscal risk. Earned value management is the concept that's woven into project management, and earned value management is a lot more than simply budget management. EVM really looks at where you are in the cycle of a project in terms of the schedule, anticipated amount of work being accomplished, and the amount of money spent, right? So you may have a project that is ahead of schedule, but over budget. So you may look at your schedule performance index and it's great. We're ahead of schedule. But if your budget is more over than you are ahead of schedule, you're still not performing well, right? So if I am 25% ahead of schedule and 50% over budget, something's wrong. However, if I am 25% ahead of schedule and on budget, I'm actually doing better because from an earned value management perspective, I have provided 25% more value to my project than the budget called for. So I can have a cost performance index of 1 and a schedule performance index greater than 1, right? So, and at critical run, guys, I'm not sure on the plus or minus 1 right now in the back of my head on which one's better. But it teaches you about project budget management, which isn't just about did I meet the number, right? There's too many variables that go into it. Lean, and one thing I love about Lean is process improvement and optimization, which really starts looking at how do you optimize the efficiency of what you're doing. Again, if you work in the government, you don't want to come in under budget. If you're a contractor, you want to make sure you burn all of your budget, and then it goes into time and materials versus fixed fee, right? How do you ensure to meet the deliverable? So contract type goes a lot into the budget management or earned value management process as well. But again, all that's kind of woven into the training around PMP to know what type of contract you want to get into. One of the flaws I've experienced even in my own company is on project kickoff, the team is not often told what project or contract type you're working under. Now, that may not seem like a big deal, but it depends how efficiently I'm going to work for you as a team member. And that may sound dumb. If it's a fixed fee contract and I know that no matter what we do, we're not going to earn any more money, the best thing I can do as a team member for you is be efficient with my time and get it done faster. Why? Because that means we have a greater profit margin, okay? If it is a time and materials project, the only way we make money is for me to do more work. Therefore, it does not behoove us from a business perspective for me to work more efficiently. In fact, we will make less revenue if I work faster, okay? So understanding simple nuances for your project team allows your team to interact appropriately relative to your goals as a project manager in order to fit within your budget goals and the scope accomplishment goals, which is getting all the work done in the right time at a quality standard and not blowing your budget. So again, these are all nuances that some you're not going to learn until you're a PM, quite frankly. Like it's theoretically easy and hard to do.
Yeah, and Josh brings up a huge point there. And I'll kind of speak from a federal government perspective. Getting things done quicker and cheaper is not necessarily always the right answer. You might actually deliver everything perfectly, but if your federal government customer on the other end is in the middle of Q4 and they've got to turn money back to DOD, I'll just give you an example, right? And they've got to turn back $100,000 back to DOD. They're not going to be happy with you. You need to spend that money so they can justify their budget for the next year, and that becomes kind of the definition of government fraud, waste, and abuse, but that's an important nuance as a project manager to understand. When people want to get certain things done in a certain amount of time for a certain amount of money, they really want to hold to it. So earned value management absolutely come to bear when you speak about scope creep. Oh, that's an even better question. So scope creep is my favorite. So as a PM, and I'll kind of kick this off and hand it back over to you, Josh.
No, in IT, you're living scope creep every day in IT.
Oh my God, scope creep is my favorite, and I'll give you guys kind of a quick story on that one. So I was my first project management gig was I was running an application, and some of you might know it from active duty. It was the Reconnaissance Operations Management Enterprise, or ROAM was the acronym. Apparently in the field it was terrible because you had to VPN in on like a 3G cell phone and try to make it work on an antiquated server, which we all tried to fix. But to give you an idea of scope creep, we had a Marine Corps 04 who was basically our officer rep to this program, and we'd give him a demo at the end of every sprint cycle. And only Marines, I love Marines. Only they could come up with this stuff. So it was like, he wanted to be able to print out. Basically, it was a glorified tracking database for ISR flights. Think of it, unmanned aerial platforms, manned aerial platforms, et cetera, for all the Blue Force trackers. So basically you go through this whole thing. He had to print it out, put it in the president's daily briefing every day. And he basically was like, hey, I really love this sprint, but can you give me an idea of how I can click a button and basically like print this out for me? Because I don't like how I'm doing it now. And it was just a complete requirement out of cycle. So one of the things you got to do as a PM is you have to manage customer expectations. So scope creep is the greatest example. You'll have a customer midway through a sprint, especially on the government side, be like, yeah, I really hate what we're doing. Let's just go ahead and switch it up right now. Or let me just add some stuff on top of there. Or can I take this away and then fix it with this and switch it around here? The biggest thing you can do wrong in that instance is basically just say, yep, we're going to do whatever you need to do and make it happen, because then it becomes on you. You start looking at, as a program manager, you want to make your customers happy. But now if you're taking on more work than you can handle, or you're taking on less work than what was allotted, now your budgets are getting all out of whack. And now you're either going to need to get more money, use less money. You talk about fraud, waste, and abuse. You slow down your developers who are ready to do something more complicated, and they just got told, instead of like reprogramming the back end of an application, let's just go ahead and make a quick button that prints to a PDF. So you're taking a 4-week task and you're cramming it down, and it only takes like 2 days, but now you're asking them to stretch it out to 4 weeks. Like you can't do those types of things. So that's where like agile development life cycles, you talk about a Scrum Master on this page. That's where this really comes in, is to help kind of manage against that scope creep. Now it happens all the time. It's going to happen to you. It happens to me. You're going to want to accept something. You're going to want to make somebody happy, or you're going to run into something that delays you and you don't want to report on it. You just got to keep true to yourself. And that's where the PMP really comes into play. That framework really helps you kind of avoid it as best you can. So Josh, go back over to you. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, good discussions on scope, and sometimes the scope creep really comes into any change. And this is where the government at least does this part right. If you want to change, go talk to the KO and get it modified to the contract to cover your sticks, right? I think the issue from a procurement and a project management perspective is when you agree as a PM to do something for a customer who wasn't the KO, you nor him or her have the authority to actually modify the contract. So it becomes kind of the handshake deal, and then at the end, no one can hold anybody accountable. But if you didn't meet the contractual claim deliverable, the task order, then you are accountable to that. So it's understanding the programmatic side of it, understanding, and this is even on an agile project, those are the predictive pieces of project management that have to come into play from an earned value management perspective. Is that a contract in the government is predictive. No matter what methodology you're using in execution, you have to understand predictive and EVM. And that's where, again, like PMP is a great baseline that you can build upon no matter what other follow-on methodology you want to use, just from a high-level overview of what it is and how it works. And again, starting in January, to Kate's question, is that Agile is being woven into the PMP learning process, at least the fundamentals of Agile, because there are ways in which it applies that can be used. It's like incorporating Six Sigma into quality. There's a lot of application for it. They're not going down enough to get you certified in Agile, but they're really just trying to cover what is it, what's the ceremonies of Agile, the sprints, the structures to know how to use it and how it applies. But great question. And what we do in our company in the government side is if the contract has a ceiling and we have more bandwidth to cover the work, right? The initial task did not fill up our time. We go back to the customer and say, look, you have so much more resource, i.e. fiscal resource, to get something else done. What else would you like us to do? And then you get a contract mod that adds an additional task. So it allows the customer to continue to spend money to meet their fiduciary usage goals, or not. I'd say in the civilian world, though, if you can get into a fixed fee contract, do it every day you can, because that allows you to optimize your team and performance and actually increase profit. T&M, which a lot of government contracts are, sucks. It's like, look, we're just here to do the job. You try to build the plan as best as you can, and then you're just managing the project at that point, versus really being able to optimize the project, which is what makes T&M a lot of fun. It also makes it all risk. Fixed fee. The risk of a fixed fee project relies on the project manager. It relies on your sales team to bid it well and you as the PM to execute and optimize. If you screw it up, you lose money. If you do it well, you make money. That's how it works. T&M is low risk to you as the project deliverer and lower risk to the customer because nobody really knows what they want and you just have an overall not to exceed budget. So again, those are the things though that getting your PMP talks about to understand that when I was active duty, I had no clue what any of that meant, right? So any saved rounds before we skip off this page, but again, I'm glad a conversation started.
Chime in if I can.
Absolutely.
Timeline there. No, as everyone here looks at this slide, I think it's great, because it shows the full spectrum of I guess, flavors of project management that are out there that you can get into. And one thing that, we can talk on later as this develops is because we're talking certifications. And I find it important. So I've had my PMP now since 2014. The PMP comes from PMI, Project Management Institute. That's the awarding body. They're the ones that write the PMBOK, the Project Management Book of Knowledge. They're the ones that police everything and make sure that the certification remains something that's worth earning. And that's special from that list because the remainder of those, there's really no standard or no prestigious certification past that. So the Lean Six Sigma, that's something that I have a lot of background in. I'm trained through green belt and I can actually do black belt work within the Lean Six Sigma realm. I have done a lot of that training. And I've never bothered to get the certification because I'm a PMP and because I can talk on Lean Six Sigma. And that kind of goes to the point that Josh was saying about your ability to sell yourself. Usually that's what I tell potential employers when they ask me about continuous process improvement. I really like that type of project management, but I've never gone the distance to get a certification only because now ASQ has risen to be the equivalent of almost of PMI of saying, this is the gold standard for the Lean Six Sigma. But as you find with a couple of those other certifications, there's a lot of different agencies out there that award them, which just leaves a lot of up to opinion of the people that you're interviewing with as to what the quality of that certification is, which is something that the PMP doesn't have. If you're a PMP, you're recognized across the board. The value of having that, as these guys just mentioned, is, it's a discriminator in the greater DC area. There are some jobs you will not be able to apply without having a PMP. They just won't waste their time on you. For the organization, the value for them is in order to maintain the PMP, you have to continue to do continuous education. It's not anything serious. It's 60 hours every 3 years. Mm-hmm. And PMI, so long as you're a paid member with PMI, like I am, you can take webinars online and they count for free. So that's 1 hour. Get some time. 60 hours in 3 years, you can squeeze that in. But also, if you teach classes, like for example, us doing this course for you, we could all probably take this time, write it up, and submit that as training time with PMI. And they would recognize that as, hey, you're contributing to the profession, and they would give us an hour and a half for this event. So as you look through and start considering what fields to go into, know that there's each one of these fields have a little bit of a flavor to them. PMP is the pinnacle. You can do everything else with a PMP. Like for me, I don't feel the need or the urge to earn any of the other certifications. If anything, I would go up rather than out, meaning I would go and get my PGMP, and they used to have a portfolio management professional. But I would personally go down that route before I start earning any of the other ones, just because I'm comfortable enough in my experience to sell myself in those other fields. So just kind of think of that and kind of always come back to guys like us to ask those types of questions. It's not just you see a certification, go out and get it, because you may be wasting your time and money.
Yeah, I dropped an article on how to maintain your PDUs that I wrote. If you have questions about it, Lewis is absolutely correct. The goal is to maintain relevance in the community. Any professional license out there requires you to maintain it, right? There's a lot of folks. There's a company out of Australia in the special forces community selling a bunch of crap on this thing for project management, and they're certified project professionals or CPPs or certified project managers, CPM certs. You get them once for life, and you do a phone call, pay some guy $500, and he goes, "Here you go." Okay. No one in the industry gives a shit that you have it, but you feel a really good thing. No, I'm a certified project manager. Like, well, what about the PMBOK? You're like, I don't know. I never read it. Credibility from the education you get and earning something that's worth it. And things that are worth it mean maintenance. ACP, just a correction slightly, ACP is a PMI. It does not have the same weight as PMP. However, I think there's still a lot of application in learning Agile from a leadership potential. Scrum Master, the Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org are the two bodies that teach it. Again, it's great at a tactical execution level to know what it is if you want to be a Scrum Master, which is really more of like a platoon leader or something small in the execution. It is at the tactical level, not at the operational or strategic level. So again, I think knowing Agile is great at a strategic level. PMP fits a strategic level. Scrum is tactical. Lean and Six Sigma fit everywhere. But to Lewis's point, it's the Wild West. I've had people sell me a black belt cert for 4 days, just pay them $2,000, and you realize it's not worth the paper it's written on. So because of that, Lean really comes down to, can you speak the language? Do you understand it? Do you know how to improve it? Can you do the statistical analysis to back it up? So again, I'm training green belt as well. I want to get my black. But to Lewis's point, the value of what you're going to get is how do you want to use it? What door are you trying to open? Or is it just for professional learning? So, all right, just keep the flow going and move on to the next slide. If it'll let me. All right, value of PMP and transition. Believe it or not, I just typed PMP into LinkedIn, found 180,000 jobs that are looking for PMP. Some are desirements, some are requirements, okay? It just shows you applicability. It doesn't mean because you have it, you're getting hired. That goes into networking and a bunch of other stuff. However, if you want to have a seat at the table, you got to speak PMBOK, is what that's saying, right? I think it's up to 25% now, average higher salary for those who are PMs than who are not certified. Again, this doesn't mean you're going to make more money. However, if you are a project manager, a lot of companies have an automatic pay increase because you're certified, just like being an engineer. If you are an engineer or a PE, you make more money as a professional engineer. Okay? It's a test. It's a 4-hour test. Gee, the PMP is a 4-hour test. Go figure. Right? Point it out. Industry standard terminology and how to relate to civilian counterparts. The one huge gap, I will say, and this goes to all veteran resumes, cost of labor. The cost of labor is the most expensive thing you will ever maintain as a project manager. On active duty, nobody incorporates cost of labor on your resume. Right? I'll give you an example. We did a $2.2 million exercise for Arctic Warfare School. Right? 1,200 Marines from the East Coast to California and Bridgeport to go through a 6-week training exercise. $2.2 million was the supply and transportation cost to execute that project. When I integrate an average E5 salary times 1,200 people over 6 weeks, it becomes a $15 million project. Okay? So, as a civilian, your labor cost will eat you alive. To compete with civilian counterparts, you need to be able to articulate the cost of labor, okay? Just from a financial management responsibility level and leadership, okay?
Now, I can tell you all that for me personally, that 20% higher average salary, I can tell you that I transitioned in 2010. Since that time, I've worked for both government and private sector contractors. I have not accepted a position for under $110,000, and currently, right now, I won't even talk to somebody for under 120. So that is the amount of pull that you can get in this area with a PMP and with the level of experience that most of us have. So it is not just bulk and a bullet on the screen. And to address the third point that Josh puts up there, which is great, when I was transitioning, I paid a resume service $700, right? Both a civilian, both a federal and a private resume. A private sector resume. And when they gave it to me, and this is not a joke, this really happened. I didn't understand a darn thing that was on it. I went out to Barnes & Noble and bought the Idiot's Guide to Project Management. And that's when I started being able to map the words from, a statement of work, that's an LOI in the Marine Corps. Or this, no, that means that. A stakeholder, okay, that's just, what Josh just said. But a lot of these words you do know. And, what makes a professional, and, I'm talking to a group of professionals here, so you already know this, but it's vocabulary. When you can speak a certain language, then you are part of that group. And that's what the PMP gets you. Like once you start calling people stakeholders, once you start speaking EVM, once you can think in that terminology and express yourself in that terminology, then you're part of that family. So it doesn't matter now that you go to another job that is probably in a different industry than what you are. If the people on your interview panel or on the field that you're going into are PMPs, you can always resort back to that language. It's just the same for us, right? If it doesn't matter once we're out about in the, even if you're still active duty, if you're out and about in this area, if you're in the Navy or you're a Marine, it doesn't matter if you run into another sailor, another Marine, and they're not in your, OC field, you can still have a conversation because we still have that common vernacular. So that's one of the biggest values that I definitely like to drive home of what the PMP gives you.
Yep. And it's going to suck. The test sucks, right? It's hard. I'm not going to lie. So there's a camaraderie on, I went through that pain together, right? So when you have it, you're like, oh man, I know what it's like. And you will make sure to keep it current because you don't ever go through that pain again. I'm just telling you. So I just dropped another article in there on why veterans make good project managers, published with GI Jobs. I wrote every article on here. If you have questions about it, let me know. It's not a bragging point. It's just if you want clarity, I'd love to deep dive in all of it just to maintain our time. All right. Specifics on how to get your PMP. All right. Everyone here has a degree. You guys need 36 months within the last 8 years of experience. All of you have it. I'll walk you through that later if you have any questions on how to get it, but every one of you is a project manager. I'll help you translate your experience if you want for the application. All right. CAPM is kind of the associate's degree. It's great for E5 and below, but I tell people don't waste your time. Just give yourself another year to get the experience and then go take your test. All right. ACP, a little bit different. It's an easier cert to get. So if you are active duty and you're looking at how to develop your team, maybe start with Agile. Honestly, I think it's easier to comprehend. It's got a faster return on investment, and it's a great structure to allow your team leaders to apply a methodology and gain feedback. If you have your PMP, I think it's 8 months within the last 3 years only. Otherwise, you have to articulate 12 months of project experience in the last 5 years. So again, if you get it after PMP, all you need is the 8 months of Agile. Otherwise, you have to show a year, 21 hours of training. It's just a 3-day training course. My company teaches both. So if you have questions on either, let me know. All right. Why certification? So one of the issues in transition is getting your civilian company to get over their false perception divide, I call it, right? I don't know how many stories I've heard of you tell somebody you were an infantryman and they're like, oh, so you like kill babies, right? I mean, it's stupid, but civilian world has a perception of what is veteran, right? And I've written another article called Becoming a Foreign Orphan as a concept for transition because you are now forever seen as a veteran, right? You might as well change your race and culture to everything else and say veteran because the perception of what a veteran is in the eyes of the beholder. Okay, professional certifications allow you to bridge the divide to help gain industry knowledge and experience and credibility, but also then remove any false perceptions. Okay, and it did. Like I said, I was in a nuclear power plant, first job within a year of transition, talking to senior project managers who were PMPs because I had my PMP. They liked that I was a Marine. They liked that I could handle the stress, but I could talk with them and it immediately brought the wall down. I didn't have to prove anything to anybody because you'd earned it, right? Like you walked in with your badge. So it helped bridge that divide. They're faster and easier to obtain. I've written articles on the value of certification versus education, right? You can have your PMP in about 6 weeks. A master's degree takes you 2 years. One will cost you about 60 grand. One will cost you 1,200 bucks. Okay. And companies right now, including Amazon, don't care about your degrees, right? We have one of our alumni who's a program manager at Amazon taking over their internal training program. He has told us they are taking secondary education degrees off of their job resume, right? Because they're like, the tech people that we want that are doing a lot of the high-tech stuff don't really care, right? I don't need you to go to college to be a coder when you've been coding since you were 12 years old in your mama's basement, right? Like, and they see that. So they want to know that you can speak industry certification and industry standard. Again, not all companies are doing that, but I think that's kind of the next trend. But you will find out by looking on jobs and seeing what they're calling for. All right. Ways to pay for it. If you're interested, again, unit training funds are great. SF 182 process, I can walk you through in about 5 minutes. But if the command is on board and willing to send it or spend it, then you find a class you want to attend, you fill out the form and your credit card holder pays for it. Right. 25K purchase limit. With our company, it's 15 students. You can pick a week. We'll do it anywhere in the world, right? You're all in the DC area, but if you wanted to get something going, we can make it happen. Tuition reimbursement. A lot of civilian companies have a tuition reimbursement program. They usually come with some kind of continued service obligation, just like tuition assistance, right? So my company has a $3,000 a year program. You can't start using it until you've been there for a year. And the minute you use it, you have to stay a year later. So it's their way to keep retention high and also grow their workforce. And then for our company, we do a 40% out-of-pocket discount. So the cost of PMP through us, if you're a veteran, is $1,175, including the exam cost. And for ACP, I think it's like the $900 range, right? That includes training, 1 year access to the training program, mentorship, and everything else from soup to nuts for 1 year. So as vets, that's the model we built because we wanted it to be a partner journey. I'll allow Sean and Lewis to tell you their own journey, but it probably felt a lot like I figured it out on my own and I worked really, really hard to figure out what I didn't know. And by the skin of my teeth, I passed. So we didn't want to make it that way. We wanted it to be a shepherded journey to be able to go along this together since we're vets. All right, how to schedule a course. Again, this is more for our company specifically. If you got 8 people, let me know. We'll find out funding and then we'll make it happen when you want it to happen. Okay. For vets, for Ray, it's $1,175 for PMP. And that's not $11.75. It's $1,175. The exam.
That's a pretty good deal. When I went through this, which was what, 6 years ago, so take inflation account, it was $2,200.
And that probably didn't include your exam, did it?
No, no, which is another 500 bones.
Right. The $1,175 cost includes exam and failure retest. Okay. So we did not build the company to get rich. We built the company to give back. All right. Again, PMP, our price is $1,559. You take 40% off of that. So I think you're in like the $900 range ish. Again, the exam there is $495. Those are sunk costs. That's going to PMI no matter what. So just take that off the top. All right, Rick. Go to our website, look on the course catalog, find a class you want, send me an email, and I'll make sure you get your discount. Email's right there. Shoot me a note, connect afterwards. I'm not doing this for business. I'm doing this to give out, but I want to help in whatever way I can. We also have what we call the Ambassador Program, which is if you want to help me get a class scheduled with 8 people, I give you free training for a year anyway. And there's no out-of-pocket cost except for the exam. So that's how we grow the most, is finding a way to give it away, right? You know, get us in touch with active duty components, get us up with units, get us up with your employers so we can schedule classes. We're training right now for T-Mobile as a company. We built a really cheap pricing model for them, but their minimum class size is 20. But we did about 9 classes for them this year. So again, Ray, shoot me a note, we'll talk. All right, next slide. Yeah, unit funding. I've probably talked to over 100 different units in the last 3 years around the world. So if you have questions, let me know. I will walk you through how to spend unit money. My unit paid for mine, and that's why I'm an advocate of it, because it really helped me on active duty. I got Lean Six Sigma and PMP active. So when I transitioned, I had a quote the other day, a certification is like a well-fitted suit, right? You walk in with confidence having both, because it just helps give you credibility. You don't have to walk in explaining it. It just really helps. All right, I'm going to go through this one pretty quick. Why I think we're better than everybody else. We're a bunch of Marines, right? But again, we're a bunch of military folks that wanted to give back. Soup to nuts, all included. So you can look at this later. Contact info is there. Additional resources, again, you guys will have the slide deck. My email is in there. Reach out. I'd love to talk to you. In transition, the requirements process. I'll give you a quick blurb on this. So the guys on the call heard it earlier, but project manager is a solution. Project manager is not a requirement. Okay. When you're looking at what do you want to do next, project management is a field for you. Define the attributes of work. Formal or informal authority, right? That'll go into whether or not you want to go Agile or PMP route and types of projects you want to work on. Type of organization. Do you want to travel? Do you want to work indoors or outdoors? Intellectual work or physical work? Do you want to work on flat organizations or vertical organizations? work-life balance, pay, internal growth planning, potential. Like those are all attributes of a job that may or may not fit within a job title you think you want. Okay. Project manager is a solution. Project manager is not a job requirement, is not an attribute of work. I was talking with a lady in Germany who wanted to work for the Army Corps of Engineers. I found out she was an event planner for Marine Corps Community Services. She liked projects. It's like, why do you want to work for the Army Corps of Engineers? Because they have project managers. I was like, you guys event planners or project managers, right? It's like, no, I had no idea. So I literally went on LinkedIn I looked up event project manager in Seattle and found an event planning project manager looking for PMP, right? Like, so what she wanted to do was kind of like project management work, but she really wanted to engage with the community and do event planning. So just be careful what solutions you chase as job titles, because they may or not meet the attributes of work you really want to have. Okay. Again, I'll geek out on that. I'll do one-on-one mentorship with you if you want to talk through it and help you map out your own journey. Start with Why is great with Simon Sinek. StrengthsFinder 2.0 is a great resource out there to figure out where your strengths align and what jobs will work for you. All right. There you go. Head exploded, right? Freaking faster, funnier for an hour and 10 minutes. But open it up. Sean, I'll let you kind of recap anything I missed, and Luis, and then I really want to allow the audience to throw it against the wall and see what we got.
Yeah, no, I'll chime in here. Sorry, I had to bail for 5 minutes. It's not being project manager, raising a toddler. That just has no end in sight. So
now project management with change constantly, right? Come on, you're next.
That's brutal. The things I'll throw in there, right? Getting the certifications. Y'all asked about doing it on active duty. One of the other aspects about the PMP is it's expensive. Like to get in the mindset to do the training, to even take the exam, to really do it correctly, you want to go to training for this. If you try to tackle it on your own, it's going to be tough. So what you look for when you're getting ready to take that PMP exam, and Luis mentioned this too, a lot of companies aren't even going to talk to you without a PMP, but once you're in, they would pay for you to get your PMP. So it's like that catch-22 kind of moment. If you're on active duty and you come into an opportunity where either you're in a position to get the training and to get the certification to do it correctly, absolutely, I am all about it. If that's the career you want to go down, you want to be a project manager, I mean, it's awesome. Or if you're in a company now and you want to transition into a project management type of role, I always encourage to look into kind of what are their continuing education programs. I did mine where I had one of my companies that I was working for, they paid for it. And on the back end, you only owed them, 3 months or something. So it was completely worth it. Especially in the government space. Everyone knows the federal government. When it gets in their head that it's a great idea, it becomes the doctrine, and that is what it will be. So project management professionals are the doctrine for the federal government, especially if you're a contractor looking in, or if you're on the Govy side, that DOEA certification, it is the gold standard to them. And they are completely different from one another, as Josh told you, but there are some similarities. So it's worth it, in my opinion. Looking back, you may only ever use half of the vocabulary in the job that you're doing. You may end up having to pivot and adapt and use certifications from other things as well. So we talked about Lean Six Sigma. Some of the things that Luis mentioned about continuous process improvement. I've got a certification in ITIL. Ask me the last time I used it besides drawing a big circle and say, these are the 5 phases of ITIL, right? So it was something that was needed in IT service management. It does give you kind of a framework of best ideas. There are ITIL practitioners out there that live their life by it and love it every single day. I'll just say from my own experience, it has helped me kind of just get a framework. And then you combine kind of those best practice frameworks and practices from each of your certs that you upkeep and you continuously improve on. And all of a sudden you got something to bring to bear. Like Luis mentioned, his resume, I had the same experience. By the time I had a tailored resume come back to me after coming off active duty, I literally had no idea what it said. And so I kind of had to do the same thing. What is it that I'm actually going to try to sell when I walk into an interview and somebody asks me about the time that I did some management task and what was the scope and the stakeholders and what was my, experience between critical path or critical chain and, all this PMP verbiage. So it's definitely worth it. Yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. Luis, over to you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, I actually saw that Erica Schreiner joined our meeting tonight. She's actually an associate member with us. Wasn't planning on seeing her tonight, but thanks so much for joining us, Erica. We just gave her a ability to kind of chime in and speak. Erica is a director at FedSoft. She has helped many of our members gain employment here in the greater DC area with pretty reputable companies, everyone from Amazon to a couple of Beltway Bandits, several contractors. So I wanted to ask her, since this is her field and where she's helped so many of us, get recruited on these companies. Erica, what are your opinions of kind of what we've spoken about tonight and the value of getting the certification and the Agile certification on top of that? Mic check.
Can she unmute?
No.
Let's see what we got.
All right. Can check your mic real fast. All right, but just chime in. She's stressing the value of that Agile certification, something that's really catching fire. It's kind of what we've been talking on here, that it is just something that it's just you'll find as you're transitioning and you're looking for jobs. Like, for example, I have enough experience as a data analyst that I can sell myself as a data analyst and a data scientist. For a while there, that was the word. I mean, you threw that out there, you were getting a job. Same thing with Agile, in my opinion. It's same thing in my opinion with Agile. Sorry, I was checking there my phone with Erica. She's trying to get on right now. But Agile is a big kid on the block right now. Everybody wants to hire Agile. My problem with a lot of that is that I love the field of project management, and I tell you what I think is best for us and why I chose it as my career path is I can't do things ad infinitum. Like I flew for the Marine Corps. It wasn't something that I knew that it was the aspect of flight that I enjoyed, but I like starting something and then I like finishing it and then I like doing something else, right? And that's what project management gives me. I start things and then once they're finished and done, I pass them on to the functional team. It's not like admin where I'm constantly, I can tell you, and I had a job like that where I could tell you what I was going to do every January. I could tell you what I was going to do every February. I could tell you what I was going to do every March. And that's why I'm not at that job anymore, right? I like the turnover that happens with project management. So if that's something that appeals to you, I think that is something. And Ray, I see you raised your hand. Did you still want to talk? But that is something that it wants to that might draw you into this career field. It's definitely something that you should think about and consider as far as what you do day to day. Because for us, I think we are project managers. Well, we are project managers when we're active duty because we don't do the same thing every day. You're doing a workup to go on deployment. You go do the deployment. You come back from deployment, and you're always launching up. And I'm going to give you permission here, Ray, to speak. You should be. Could you raise your hand one more time, Ray, and I'll be able to grant you that. But yeah, that's something that is definitely something for you. So Erica chimes in that originally the PMP was supposed to be 40% Agile focused as of this past July. However, because of COVID, it's now changing next year. So, yep. So that's something to keep in mind right now. So the PMP, again, it's revised every 3 years or so, along with the PMBOK. So they're always looking at how to make it better. So you have to keep that in mind because right now we're at that turnover point. So if you're studying, you want to make sure that you're kind of
Lewis froze.
Yeah, I think he did.
I froze.
I think you're back.
Did I freeze? Am I back?
We probably all froze, but you're back.
Okay. All right. Erica adds, I would recommend everyone take an Agile cert. There are separate Agile certs for government versus private sector.
Yeah.
And Josh asks, Erica, which do you recommend for government? Erica.
I'm going to say, Erica, I think you've got a scaled Agile framework cert, if I LinkedIn stalked you correctly.
Yep. Scaled Agile is interesting. I'll let those who have it talk about it. But
Here we go. Most managers take a lesser candidate with a PMP over a more qualified candidate without. Now that brings up a great, fantastic point, right? So I'll give you this one too. The whole kind of reason I even took my PMP was because all of us were working for, and I love picking on this guy too, is an Air Force vet, retired E7. I mean, he really, spent a lot of his time in the Air Force. But when he got out, he was a very anti-cert guy. He was all about the experiences, making it on his own. He didn't need letters behind his name to make it. He's done really well for himself. He's the vice president at GDIT these days. But at the time, all of us working for him said, let's all go get our PMPs so that, we can all pretend like he starts working for us and we'll all go after his job as our program manager. So 5 of us all went and took the PMP boot camp, got certified, got the cert. But what Erica's point is all of us at that time were probably 10 to 12 years younger than our program manager. But yet you fast forward a couple of years for some of the openings in that same exact company, a couple of us actually got picked over him in the running. And we didn't have that same level of experience, but we had the letters behind our name and it met a desirable requirement. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one.
So we just had Ray Villarreal, if I pronounce his name right, join us. He's one of our members. And Ray, if you could give a quick intro and then please let us know what you wanted to tell everyone.
Very good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, Ray Villarreal, class of 91, 24-year surface warfare officer, retired in 2015. Have been supporting NAVC in the Washington Navy Yard, both as a contractor and as a Govy. Did cost analysis recently for the LCS program, the most recent FFGX, which is a new frigate class, FFG 62 USS Constellations. That's pretty cool. And right now working for C21 as a contractor for Serco, which is a contractor company. So first of all, just want to say thanks, Josh and Sean, for your presentation. When Josh was talking, the comment I wanted to share with Josh was talking about DWIA, the program management for DWIA. It takes 3 years to get to level 3, and they're pretty stingy about that because I went down the path for cost estimation and just got to level 2 before I left. But they're stingy and they're kind of cruddy about it. So if you wanted to become a level 3 DWIA, going to DAU, you got to put in the 7 years, under be an acquisition professional type job where they allow it, then they'll let you go, and then you got to log 7 years. So that's a long ass time to get what you would equivalently get by putting in the time. It's a lot quicker to get a PMP. So if you're going to be acquisition professional, then that's good. But one more plug to what Josh was saying, why it's important to take advantage of all these opportunities like his company, the Syracuse program. But anyways, it'll help you. Just, it's just a longer road with the DWIA part. That's what I wanted to share, Louise. Thank you.
And Ray, if I could ask you a question, how valuable have you seen DWIA to be as far as hireability in comparison? Taking not into account the time frame it takes to earn it. Does it make you any more desirable than
if you're going to stay in the public in the contractor sector really for any of them? And there's various flavors. Let's say you were a system engineering and you want to work at TEF4 or NSWC Carter Rock or the Marine, any weapons development. You're an engineer, and there's project management in that too. So there's multiple blends. But if you're a tank guy or an aircraft guy and you're going to build a sensor for an aircraft or a weapon, you could be part of the systems engineering. That's a whole nother community, and that's a whole nother business sector and you got to put your time in. It takes time to build that. So it's very useful. The DAU and DOE are very helpful, and it's kind of like what you've been saying. It plays into the plan. You got to have a plan. You shouldn't just get what Josh was saying, just get PMP just because someone told you. You have to see the value in it. The beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and it's only as valuable as it means to your own market research to go to where you're going. You can't. So very useful, but it has to align with your plan. And a big advocate for DAU and DAU, much in the same. But since we're talking about program management, it's just a longer road. But you have to be committed to it, and it is value. If you have DWIA level 3 in program management or anything else, yeah, you can get hired in the government if you value the GS 14 or 15 job within NAVSEA or the Marine Corps. If that's your gig, and that's very good if that's what you want. If you want to be a contractor, billable contractor, that's good too. If you want to work as I think it goes further away. If you wanted to be like a consultant with one of the bigger firms, Booz or someone, Guidehouse or PwC, then it might be better off having the PMP because it's quicker. Although they do divide. If you're working for the government, DAU is good. I think that's the short answer, Luis.
There's a lot of companies that'll say PMP or DWIA level 3. Now, how you got equivalents, I don't know.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. They use them interchangeably when they're not, and it's just. And you brought light to that, but hey, it's one or the other. And if it helps you get hired, and it really, I think it depends how you use your time, which is what both gents talked about. You have to be smart about how you use your energy and your resources to make your resume pop.
Yep. One thing I did want to hit on kind of as a last one, there's some resources here. I'll lift it up on the slide. If you're looking for a suit, I've talked to the owner of Salute the Suits. Huge advocate of veterans. I think it's like $1,000 for his highest package, but it's like 4 suits, sport coat, 3 pairs of pants, shirts, tie. Like it's your entire Beltway Bandit wardrobe for $1,000, right? Custom fitting. He's a great guy named A-Rod. The partner he has is a Marine. His dad was is a veteran as well. So just wanted to give back. He's like 65 and retired. He's been in the clothing industry forever. He just wanted to find a way to help veterans. So check him out if you want. Job placement, Military Talent Partners is a great friend of mine. Natalie Oliverio does a lot of resume support for free. So instead of paying $700 like Lewis did, you can probably get one better. Networking, Vets to Industry is a great resource. Burbiz is huge. If you guys have not heard of Burbiz yet, check it out. They used to do a lot of networking events pre-COVID at the MGM Grand. Great way to just meet fellow veterans in the DC area. A lot of recruiters that are looking to get hired on as well. Veterati, I'm a mentor on there, and then the Veteran Mentor Network on LinkedIn are all great resources. The last plug, though, on tactical networking, I call it, a lot of things I didn't know on LinkedIn is if you type in, say, project manager DC, right? If that's your solution, you want to go after project manager in DC, and you find a job, right? You find a job posting, say, for Booz, since they were brought up earlier. You're going to find out if they think that PMP is required or desired. Some contract jobs, it's required. If you don't have it, it's a deal breaker. What I've learned, though, is if you click on Booz Allen's company profile page, there's a tab that says people, right? When you click on that people tab, you can filter out descriptors of their company employee database, and you can look for academy, right? You can look for USNA if you wanted. You can look for veteran. Connect with that person, right? If you want to know what a company is looking for, connect with a fellow employee who works there. They will tell you how valuable a certification is going to be. They can tell you if there's a growth plan within the company to pay for it after you get hired. And the best thing they can do is possibly get you an interview with the hiring manager before you ever applied. Okay. Rick, yes, I'll send this to the team. They should have it already. They can email it out to everybody. Having that dialogue with a fellow veteran at a company is the most invaluable conversation you will ever have on how to get a job or understanding what that company is looking for, or being able to negotiate your way past not having a cert, okay? Because that door, the conversation of the door as the hiring manager, can occur before applying. And if the door likes you and the door opens, it doesn't matter that you meet the requirements or not. Because the recruiter is going to be told, let this guy through. He's going to apply. I've already talked to him. Send him the resume. And your resume could look like a washed up piece of crap on a cardboard box. You know, like, he doesn't care at that point. He's already said, I've talked to this guy. I've seen his profile on LinkedIn. I've already done some stalking on him. I've had a conversation. I want to talk to him. So the value of networking is huge, because if all you're doing is trying to write a polished resume, you're trying to beat the shit screen, right? And recruiters are shit screens. They're great. They do awesome work and they're required, but it's a shit screen, right? They're being hired by the hiring manager to weed out all the crap that's not worth talking to on paper. And those that get the conversation are those that write a better resume, right? It's impersonal. It's an algorithmic chug. And for big companies like Booz, only if you beat the algorithm will it even get in front of the eyes of a human being. The only way to beat that program is to network, right? I've grown my network from 500 people to 28,000 right now on LinkedIn. And it's not because my content is so engaging, everybody wants to watch what I say, right? It's because I knocked on a bunch of people's doors and said, hey, I want to get to know you. How do I connect, right? So for those of you here, if you want to connect, reach out. I've already got a couple requests already. Ray, I tried looking you up, but there are way too many Ray Villarreal's out there, so I apologize. I just can't find you, man. You got a common name.
I'll do that right now. Thank you.
You're welcome. But, Brendan Kremis already reached out to me on here. I already shot a note to Erica, right? Found her, looked her up by her name. We're connected. So I'm going to give her a call later, figure out how we can possibly partner with her from a business-to-business relationship and see if there's not a way that we can find a way to work together to help get guys certifications if possible, right? Because that's how you grow businesses, by being a good partner. But networking is huge. If you want me to give you a one-on-one screenshot class, I'll set up a Zoom meeting with anybody on here and walk you through it. But LinkedIn is extremely powerful. If you're not on there, you don't exist. From a recruiter's perspective, I've been told. But it's a way to connect with powerful people in industry. Yep. Thank you, Erica, for backing that play. But
yes, perfect.
LinkedIn is huge. It's people, right? So I say treat LinkedIn like a bar. Again, I've grown knocking on everybody's door, trying to spread the word about project management and helping veterans get into the field. We've grown ProLearn from zero to a multi-million-dollar training company in 3 years by using LinkedIn and me tenaciously knocking on people's doors and saying, hey, can I talk to you? Who can I help? Do you know anybody I can help, right? So LinkedIn is powerful. It's not a bragging point. It's just showing you the value of people, right? So, yeah, networking gets you access to hidden jobs, which great point. But it's people. People want to help people, and veterans want to help veterans. So reach out, not a handout, but be like, hey, can I get some advice? Can I talk to you, right? I'm interested in your company. Can you tell me more? Just let people know what you're looking for. I've gone shameless plug on Veteran Mentor Network going, I have no clue about this. I want to go from Marine Corps Reserve to Air Force Reserve. Can anybody help me, right? And you just lob it in the punch bowl. And then people come back and they start helping you, because that's what we do. So, all right, I sucked for an hour and a half. Thank you all for your time. I'll turn it over to leadership and figure out where you go next.
Rich, and to Rich's point, that is literally the best. If you've networked correctly, the best thing you can get from somebody who wants to talk to you is, hey, look up this rec number on my site. Like, you're not even looking it up by name. You're just looking up a specific thing. And the best rec is one that's open for like 12 hours. It's just waiting for you to apply and then it closes. Like, that happens a lot. And that's the best way to get into a larger firm that way, is they already want you. So you're not trying to, we talk about the shit screen. These algorithms are so ridiculous. Like, people have been turned away because they didn't have Microsoft Windows listed as a proficiency. So like, it's just, you gotta figure out how to get to the people part of it. And yeah, that's where networking is key.
So, hey guys, I actually jump in on that is, so Erica has shared her email. I asked her to please share her email for anyone who has any recruiting questions. Like I said, she's been a phenomenal resource for our membership. She's an associate member herself. She is actually going to be our next guest for our next series of events. We're going to have a salary negotiation course next week on October 20th. And then tentative right now, but for November 11th, we're actually going to tackle the beast that we're talking about here, which is networking and how to effectively network and how to do it correctly. So be sure to register for those two events. Not to take us too far off topic, but we also need your help and assistance in making sure that we comply with our mission and our duty and our role as alumni to our school, and help us get the word out about our October 22nd information session. That's for any prospective candidates that are, or anyone else that's interested in learning more about the Naval Academy and what makes the Naval Academy, what the experience is like. Right now we have 4 confirmed speakers. We have a midshipman second class. We have a representative from the admissions department. We have a blue and gold officer, and I'll be on there as well. So please go on our website, usnagwc.org/prospective-candidates. And that will, you'll find a flyer on there. We already have more than 50 registrants to that event, but we can definitely host a whole lot more. Like I said, this is our role and opportunity as alumni, y'all. So let's please support our school and make sure that she's getting fed the top-notch candidates that she deserves, right? With that, Josh, if you're available November 11th, we can talk offline for networking. And also from all the voice you hear, I hope you've come to enjoy and we're entertained by it. That's Sean Papso. He is our host for our podcast. That'll be coming to all of you soon. So keep that in mind. We'll hopefully have that out here in the next 30 days. But a lot of great content coming for you guys. Thank you so much for your engagement. I really appreciate your participation and giving of your time for tonight and the chapter. But again, we could use your support for October 22nd. So please check the website. And I'll turn it over to you, Sean.
No, awesome. No, thank you all so much. Josh, Luis, thank you both. Hopefully you guys got some stuff out of this tonight. As always, I'm on LinkedIn as well. So if you hated it, feel free to blast me on LinkedIn, and I'm open to it as well. If you guys ever want to dive deeper into any of these topics, just like Josh said, I'm always open as well. Feel free to send me an email, hit me up anywhere. I'll respond as best I can. If you're familiar with my company, I work for a 77 grad by the name of Jim Kelly. And if you don't know Jim Kelly, he'll make sure that you know him by the end of the time he introduces himself. So the class of 77, I love those guys, but good golly, they crack me up. So thank you guys so very much. Let us know if we can answer anything. Thanks for the participation, and we'll see you on the next one.
One sec. The announcement for the USNA event is we'll send another email out, Rick, for the for that USNA event. Sorry to cut you off there, Sean.
No, perfect. That's all good. So yeah, again, thank you all so much. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm in Northern Virginia, so if anyone wants to get together after this too, I'd love to go grab a beer somewhere, get some coffee or something else.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. All right, what do I hit? This red button, or can I hit the panic button?
Not hit the panic button. Hit the other one.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great night.
All right. Take care, y'all.